18 months of invisibility teaches you things about a person. The way Franco Ravellini takes his coffee, for instance. Black, no sugar, in the same mug every morning at exactly 7:45. How his jaw tightens when he's about to deliver bad news during conference calls. The muscle jumping beneath skin that never sees enough sunlight. The fact that he touches his left cufflink twice before entering any negotiation. Like a baseball player with a superstitious ritual. I know these details because I've spent a year and a half watching him the way scientists observe distant stars. From a safe distance, cataloging patterns, never expecting to be noticed in return. My desk sits 12 feet from his office door in the executive suite of Ravellini Imports on the 32nd floor of a building in Midtown Manhattan that houses significantly more than shipping manifests and customs paperwork. Everyone who works here knows what we really are. The verified background checks, the non-disclosure agreements thick as novels, the way certain clients arrive through private elevators and leave through service exits. These things paint a picture that doesn't require explicit confirmation. I passed my background check 18 months ago. Desperate enough for the $70,000 salary that I didn't ask questions about why an import company needed a secretary with top-level security clearance. The money was obscene compared to my previous job at a law firm, where I'd made $38,000 and could barely cover rent in my studio apartment in Queens. Now I send $800 home to Connecticut every month. It's not enough to fix everything. Nothing could fix the fact that my father, James Richardson, lost his management position at 56 and has spent the last 2 years sinking into depression so deep, my mother worries he'll never surface. It doesn't solve my mother, Linda, working double shifts as a nurse, her hands cracked and bleeding from constant washing, her voice tired when we talk on Tuesday nights. It doesn't pay for my 19-year-old sister Kayla's 4-year university, just her community college tuition and books. But it helps. That's what I tell myself when I file documents I'm not supposed to understand. When I schedule meetings I'm not supposed to remember. When I carefully don't notice the way certain men arrive at Franco's office with tension in their shoulders and leave with blood on their knuckles, hidden beneath expensive suit jackets. I tell myself the money helps, and I keep my head down, and I remain invisible. Franco has never looked directly at me. Not once in 547 days. He issues instructions to a point approximately 6 inches to the left of my face. Schedule the meeting with the Greco family for Thursday. Cancel my 3 o'clock. I need the Ferraro contracts by noon. His voice is always the same. Low, controlled, with the barest trace of an Italian accent that surfaces on certain vowels. The accent gets stronger when he's angry, I've noticed, though his anger is never directed at me. How could it be? You can't be angry at furniture. Thursday evening arrives with the kind of November rain that feels personal. Each drop hitting the windows like an accusation. Most of the office has emptied by 6, but I'm still at my desk, organizing documents for tomorrow's meeting. Franco is particular about his paperwork. Everything alphabetized, color-coded, with tabs marking relevant sections. It's tedious work, but I've learned that attention to detail is the difference between keeping this job and becoming a liability. Liabilities disappear in Franco's world. I've never asked where they go. I'm on my 3rd stack of contracts when the private elevator chimes. I glance up, expecting Marco or one of the other security personnel who rotate through the building like ghosts in expensive suits. Instead, Roberto De Luca steps out, shaking rain from his dark hair. Water drips from his leather jacket onto the marble floor, and he doesn't bother wiping his shoes on the mat. He's grinning, which is his default expression. The kind of smile that crinkles the corners of his eyes and makes him look younger than his 32 years. Emily, he says. And I'm so startled to hear my name that I nearly drop the folder in my hands. In 18 months, Franco has never used my name. It's always, schedule this, or I need that, as if I'm a particularly efficient piece of software rather than a human being. Mr. De Luca, I reply, recovering quickly. Mr. Ravellini isn't expecting you until 7. Roberto, he corrects, moving closer to my desk. We've known each other long enough to skip the formalities, don't you think? Have we? I've seen him maybe a dozen times, always in passing, always with that same easy smile that seems designed to put people at ease. He's Franco's oldest friend. I know that much. Childhood friends from the same neighborhood in Brooklyn, before Franco's father built this empire, and Roberto became his most trusted capo. Is there something I can help you with while you wait? I ask, keeping my voice professional. Roberto leans against my desk, close enough that I can smell his cologne. Something woodsy and expensive. I had a meeting run long. Figured I'd come early rather than make Franco wait. He tilts his head, studying me with an intensity that makes my skin prickle. You work late a lot. It's not a question, but I answer anyway. Mr. Ravellini prefers his documents prepared the night before. Franco, Roberto says. You can call him Franco. We're not that formal here. I don't correct him. Don't explain that Franco has never invited such familiarity. Instead, I return my attention to the contracts, hoping Roberto will take the hint and wait in one of the leather chairs by the elevator. He doesn't. You've been here over a year now, right? He continues, pulling up a chair and sitting backward on it, arms folded over the backrest. How are you liking it? The question is so unexpected that I actually look at him. Really look at him. Brown eyes, easy smile. The kind of handsome that probably gets him whatever he wants from most women. There's a scar above his left eyebrow, barely visible, and his knuckles are slightly swollen. Recent violence. Carefully hidden. It's a good job, I say carefully. That's the most diplomatic non-answer I've heard all week. He laughs, the sound genuine. Come on, you can be honest. Franco's not exactly warm and fuzzy. Something about the invitation to honesty, to casual conversation with someone who actually sees me as a person, rather than office equipment, makes my guard lower fractionally. Mr. Ravellini is professional, I reply. The work is challenging. The salary is good. But I shouldn't answer. Every instinct cultivated over 18 months of careful invisibility screams at me to redirect, to deflect, to return to my filing. But I'm tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of the weight of my family's expectations. Tired of pretending I don't notice the blood and the secrets and the careful dance of violence that surrounds this place. But it's lonely, I admit quietly. Roberto's expression softens. Yeah, I bet it is. He pauses, then grins again. You know what helps with loneliness? Dinner. There's this great Italian place in the village. Roberto. The voice cuts through the air like a blade. Cold, controlled, dangerous. I freeze, contracts forgotten, as Franco Ravellini emerges from his office. I didn't hear the door open, didn't sense his presence. He moves like smoke when he wants to, silent and lethal. He's dressed as always in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. White shirt, no tie. His black hair is styled back from his face, revealing features that would be handsome if they weren't quite so intimidating. Strong jaw, straight nose, full lips currently pressed into a thin line. But it's his eyes that pin me in place. Dark brown, almost black in the low lighting, and for the first time in 547 days, they're looking directly at me. The impact is physical. My breath catches, my heart rate spikes, and every nerve ending suddenly fires with awareness. This is what it feels like to be seen by Franco Ravellini, I realize. Like being caught in a spotlight, examined, assessed, catalogued. Boss, Roberto says, standing smoothly. I was early. Just keeping your secretary company. I can see that. Franco's voice hasn't changed pitch, but something underneath it has shifted. Something cold and sharp and barely contained. His gaze moves from me to Roberto, and I watch the muscle in his jaw jump. What were you discussing? Just making conversation, Roberto replies, but there's an edge of wariness in his tone now. Getting to know Emily here. She's been working for you for, 18 months? And we've barely exchanged 2 words. Is she single? The question hangs in the air between them. Roberto's posture is casual, but I can see the calculation in his eyes. He's testing something, pushing a boundary deliberately. Franco goes very, very still. I've seen him angry before. I've watched him end phone calls with quiet threats that made men twice his size pale. I've observed the way his control never slips. How violence when it comes is delivered with surgical precision. This is different. This is rage wrapped in ice, contained by force of will alone. His hands curl into fists at his sides. His breathing remains even, but his eyes, those dark eyes that are finally looking at me, burn with something I can't name. Get in My office. Each word is delivered with devastating quiet. Now. Roberto raises his hands in mock surrender, smile slipping. Hey, I was just... Now. The command leaves no room for argument. Roberto shoots me an apologetic glance, then walks toward Franco's office. As he passes, Franco's hand shoots out, gripping his arm with enough force that I see Roberto wince. Don't, Franco says, voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Ever speak to her again. Then he releases Roberto, who disappears into the office. But Franco doesn't follow immediately. Instead, he turns those burning eyes back to me, and I feel stripped bare under his gaze, exposed, vulnerable in a way I haven't felt since the first day I walked into this building. Mr. Ravellini, I start, not sure what I'm going to say. Starting tomorrow, he interrupts. You'll have a driver. Thomas will pick you up at 7:30 every morning and bring you home every evening. You'll also have security protocols updated. Marco will brief you. I don't understand. You have access to sensitive information. You work late hours. You should have had protection before. His jaw tightens again. That was an oversight on my part. But this isn't a request, Miss Richardson. Miss Richardson. He knows my last name. Of course he does. He probably knows everything about me, from my social security number to my family's address in Connecticut. But hearing it spoken in that low, controlled voice sends an involuntary shiver down my spine. I understand, I say. Because what else can I say? He nods once, curtly, then turns toward his office. But at the doorway, he pauses, looking back over his shoulder. For a moment, our eyes meet again, and I see something I don't expect in his expression. Possession. Not attraction, not interest. Possession. The look a man gives something that belongs to him, that he's claimed whether or not anyone else knows it yet. Then the door closes behind him, and I'm left alone at my desk, contracts scattered around me, heart hammering against my ribs. Through the thick office door, I can hear raised voices, Roberto's, placating and confused, Franco's, low and lethal and final. The conversation lasts exactly 90 seconds. Then Roberto emerges, his easy smile completely gone, replaced by something that looks like genuine fear. He doesn't look at me as he heads for the elevator, doesn't say goodbye, just leaves with the kind of haste that suggests survival instinct overriding pride. I wait for Franco to emerge, to issue more instructions, to explain what just happened. He doesn't. I sit at my desk for another hour, finishing the filing with shaking hands, hyper-aware of the closed door and the man behind it who finally sees me. When I leave at 8:30, my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. This is Thomas. I'll be your driver starting tomorrow. 7:30 a.m. pickup at your address. Mr. Ravellini has briefed me on your security needs. I stare at the message for a long moment, then at the office building behind me. Somewhere on the 32nd floor, Franco Ravellini sits in his office, doing whatever it is he does when the rest of the world isn't watching. And apparently, he's thinking about my security needs. The rain has slowed to a drizzle, coating everything in a fine mist that catches the streetlights like scattered diamonds. I pull my jacket tighter and start the walk to the subway, knowing, even as I do, that tomorrow, this walk will be the last one I take alone. Whatever just happened in that office, whatever Roberto's question triggered, whatever Franco's explosive reaction meant, has changed something fundamental. After 18 months of invisibility, Franco Ravellini sees me now. I'm just not sure whether that's a blessing or a curse. Thomas arrives at 7:28 on Friday morning, 2 minutes early, driving a black sedan that's nice without being ostentatious. He's in his mid-40s, built like someone who spent time in the military, with gray at his temples and eyes that constantly scan the street even while he's holding the door open for me. Miss Richardson, he says, his voice neutral and professional. I'll be handling your transportation from now on. I slide into the back seat, leather still holding the scent of whatever expensive cleaner they use, and try not to feel like I've crossed some invisible line. Yesterday, I took the subway. Today I have a driver. The shift feels monumental, like stepping from one world into another without warning. You can call me Emily, I offer, watching Queen slide past the tinted windows. Miss Richardson is fine, Thomas replies, his eyes meeting mine briefly in the rearview mirror. Mr. Ravellini prefers we maintain certain protocols. Of course he does. The 10 days that follow are exercises in disorientation. Franco doesn't just see me now, he notices everything. On Monday, he emerges from his office at 11:30 and pauses by my desk. You haven't eaten, he says, not looking at me directly, but clearly aware of the empty space where lunch should be. I brought a yogurt, I reply, gesturing to the small container tucked beside my keyboard. I'll eat it later. That's not lunch. He pulls out his phone, types something quickly. Marco is bringing food from the Italian place on 47th. You need proper nutrition if you're working through lunch. Before I can argue that I didn't ask for this, that a yogurt has sustained me through countless workdays before, he's gone. Back into his office, door clicking shut with finality. 20 minutes later, Marco appears with a bag from Bellini's, the kind of restaurant where a single entree costs $40. Chicken marsala, roasted vegetables, fresh bread that's still warm when I open the container. I eat it at my desk, hyper-aware that Franco is probably listening to the sounds of silverware against the to-go container through his closed door, and I can't decide if I'm grateful or disturbed. Tuesday brings temperature concerns. The office has always run cold. I've learned to keep a cardigan draped over my chair for afternoons when the air conditioning becomes aggressive. But on Tuesday, around 2 in the afternoon, Franco appears again. Is it cold in here? He asks. And this time he does look at me. Those dark eyes cataloging the goosebumps on my arms where I've pushed up my sleeves to type. It's fine, I say automatically, reaching for my cardigan. He frowns. Actually frowns, a crease appearing between his eyebrows. The temperature should be comfortable for everyone working here. Really, Mr. Ravellini, it's... But he's already moving to the thermostat, adjusting it up 3 degrees. The heating system kicks on with a soft hum, and within minutes the chill begins to dissipate. Better? He asks. Yes, I admit, because lying would be pointless when he's standing there watching me with that focused intensity. Thank you. He nods once and returns to his office, leaving me to marvel at the strangeness of having my comfort suddenly matter to a man who, for 18 months, treated me like office equipment. Wednesday is when I start hearing things. Marco mentions casually, while delivering my afternoon coffee, apparently another new protocol I haven't agreed to, that Roberto has been transferred to oversee the port operations in Brooklyn. Temporarily, Marco adds, though his tone suggests otherwise. Mr. Ravellini thought his skills would be better utilized there. I don't ask what really happened. I don't need to. Roberto flirted with me on Thursday evening. By Wednesday, he's been relocated to the opposite end of the borough, managing dock workers and shipping manifests, instead of attending high-level strategy meetings in Manhattan. The message is clear. Franco Ravellini doesn't share. What he considers his to share, I'm still trying to understand. Thursday afternoon brings the incident that crystallizes exactly how much has changed. 3 men arrive for a 2:00 meeting. Associates whose names I've filed away in the careful mental catalog I maintain of everyone who passes through these doors. Vincent Caruso, Anthony Greco, and Paul Ferraro. Mid-level operators. The kind who do the actual work while people like Franco make the decisions. I've interacted with them before, always with the same professional distance. They ignore me. I ignore them. We maintain the comfortable fiction that I'm too insignificant to notice. Today is different. They're early, arriving at 1:50 and settling into the leather chairs by the elevator to wait. I continue working, updating the attendance logs for Friday's larger meeting, when Vincent calls out, "Hey, sweetheart, you think you could grab us some coffee?" I look up, surprised by the casual presumption. In 18 months, no one has called me sweetheart. "There's a coffee station right there," I reply, gesturing to the setup against the far wall. Expensive espresso machine, selection of pods, cream and sugar arranged neatly on a tray. "Yeah, but that's what you're here for, right?" Vincent grins, the expression more leer than smile. "The secretary brings the coffee. That's how it works." Something unpleasant coils in my stomach. I'm about to respond, politely, professionally, but firmly, when Franco's office door opens. He doesn't say anything at first. Just stands there, one hand still on the doorknob, his expression absolutely glacial as he looks at Vincent. The temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. "What?" Franco says, his voice so quiet I have to strain to hear it. "Did you just call her?" Vincent's grin falters. I was asking for coffee, boss. Didn't mean anything by it." "Stand up." Vincent glances at the other two men, confusion flickering across his features. "Boss?" "Stand up." Each word is delivered with surgical precision, the kind of tone that suggests compliance is the only option that doesn't end badly. Vincent stands slowly, his earlier confidence evaporating. Franco closes the distance between them in 4 strides, stopping close enough that Vincent has to tilt his head back slightly to maintain eye contact. Franco has 3 inches on him, I realize, and right now he's using every bit of that height advantage. "Her name is Miss Richardson," Franco says, still in that dangerously quiet voice. "She is not sweetheart, not honey, not any other diminutive you think makes you sound friendly. She is my executive secretary, which means she outranks you in this organization by several levels. Do you understand?" "Yeah, boss. Do you understand?" Franco repeats. And now there's something underneath the quiet, something cold and lethal that makes my breath catch. "Yes," Vincent says quickly. "I understand. I'm sorry." Franco holds his gaze for another 3 seconds. I count them, watching the way Vincent's Adam's apple bobs as he swallows nervously, then steps back. "The meeting is canceled," Franco announces. "All 3 of you can leave. Anthony, you're running the Ferraro operation now. Vincent, you're reassigned to collections in Staten Island effective immediately. Paul, you'll receive new instructions by end of day." "Boss, come on," Vincent starts, desperation creeping into his voice. "It was just out." The single word carries enough weight that all 3 men move toward the elevator without further argument. The doors close on Vincent's pale, stricken face. Silence settles over the office like snowfall. I sit frozen at my desk, contract forgotten, trying to process what just happened. Franco demoted a man, possibly ended his career, because he called me sweetheart. Franco turns to me, and the cold mask slips just slightly. "I apologize," he says. "That should never have happened. You deserve respect. Mr. Ravellini, you always have." He runs a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration I've never seen from him before. It was my failure to make that clear from the beginning. The weight of his attention is almost physical. I feel pinned by it, examined, and something in his expression makes my pulse quicken. Not fear exactly, but awareness. The kind of awareness that comes from being truly seen by someone for the first time. "Thank you," I manage finally, the words inadequate for the complexity of what I'm feeling. He nods once, then returns to his office, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts. That evening, Thomas drives me home in thoughtful silence. I watch the city lights blur past the window and try to make sense of the past 10 days. Try to understand what it means that Franco Ravellini has decided I matter. Friday arrives with its own strangeness. The office feels different. Everyone who comes through is more careful around me, more respectful. Word has spread about what happened to Vincent. The invisible line that separated me from the organization has been erased, replaced by something I don't quite understand yet. At 7 o'clock, as I'm organizing the last files for Monday, Franco emerges from his office. He's changed out of his suit jacket, rolled up his sleeves to his elbows, and for the first time I noticed the tattoo on his left forearm. Italian words I can't quite read from this distance. "You're still here," he observes. "Just finishing up," I reply, clicking save on the spreadsheet. "It's late." He pauses, seeming to weigh something internally. "You should eat. I should eat. We'll go together." It's not phrased as a question, but there's something in his posture, a slight tension in his shoulders maybe, that suggests I could refuse if I wanted to. The problem is, I don't want to. "Where?" I ask, closing my laptop. "Italian place I know. Good food, quiet. We can talk." "About what?" For the first time since this all started, Franco's expression shifts into something that might be amusement. "You've been working for me for 18 months. I know nothing about you except what appears on background checks. That seems like an oversight worth correcting. And if I'd rather keep my personal life private, then you tell me." and we have a short dinner discussing nothing more interesting than tomorrow's weather. He tilts his head slightly. But I don't think that's what you want. He's right, which bothers me more than the invitation itself. I've spent 10 days watching him notice me, protect me, insert himself into my life through temperature adjustments and lunch orders and demotions delivered on my behalf. Part of me wants answers. What changed? Why now? What does he want from me? But another part, the part that's been invisible for so long it forgot what it felt like to be seen, just wants to keep being noticed. Okay, I say, surprising myself with the simplicity of my agreement. Dinner. Good. Franco pulls out his phone, types something quickly. Thomas will drive us. 20 minutes. I gather my things slowly, watching him from the corner of my eye as he returns to his office to collect his jacket. When he emerges, fully dressed again, he looks every inch the dangerous man I know he is. Controlled, powerful, someone who makes people disappear for crossing invisible lines. But when his eyes find mine across the office, there's something else there too. Something that looks almost like relief. The restaurant Franco chooses isn't what I expect. Not the flashy, see-and-be-seen type of place where Manhattan's elite parade their wealth, but a small establishment tucked into a side street in the West Village. The kind of place you'd walk past without noticing unless you knew to look for the unmarked door between a bookshop and a vintage clothing store. Thomas drops us at the curb, and Franco places his hand on the small of my back as we approach. Not pushing, just guiding. The touch is light, barely there, but it sends electricity up my spine nonetheless. Inside, the space is intimate. Maybe 15 tables, half of them empty despite it being Friday evening. Exposed brick walls, candlelight reflecting off wine bottles arranged on wooden shelves, the scent of garlic and fresh basil heavy in the air. An older man emerges from the kitchen, his face splitting into a genuine smile when he sees Franco. Franco, he says, pulling him into an embrace that Franco returns with surprising warmth. They exchange rapid Italian, too fast for me to catch more than a few words, before the man turns to me with curious eyes. And who is this beautiful young woman? He asks in accented English. Emily Richardson. Franco replies before I can introduce myself. Emily. This is Giovanni Rossetti. He's owned this place for 30 years. 32, Giovanni corrects, taking my hand and kissing it with old-world charm. Welcome, Miss Richardson. Any friend of Franco's is family here. He leads us to a corner table, the most private spot in the restaurant, where we're partially hidden by a decorative screen. Franco holds my chair, another gesture that catches me off guard, before settling across from me. Wine? Giovanni asks, not bothering with menus. The Barolo, Franco says. And we'll have whatever you're making tonight. Giovanni nods approvingly and disappears, leaving us alone with the candle flickering between us. You don't even look at menus? I ask, trying to find solid ground in this increasingly surreal situation. Giovanni knows what I like, and he's never steered me wrong. Franco leans back in his chair, studying me with that intensity that's become familiar over the past 10 days. You're uncomfortable. It's not a question, but I answer anyway. This is strange. 2 weeks ago you didn't know I existed. Now we're having dinner together. I always knew you existed, Emily. The use of my first name sends another jolt through me. He's never used it before. Always Miss Richardson, in that formal way that maintained distance. You have a funny way of showing it, I say. 18 months of looking through me like I was made of glass. Something flickers across his face. Regret, maybe, or acknowledgement. I had reasons. Such as, Giovanni returns with wine, pouring generous glasses for both of us before retreating again. Franco takes a sip, considering his words carefully. This world I operate in. He begins slowly. It requires certain boundaries. People close to me become targets, become leverage that enemies can use. For 18 months, I kept you at a distance because distance meant safety. What changed? Roberto. Franco's jaw tightens at the name. When he looked at you, when he asked if you were single, I realized the distance hadn't protected you at all. You'd been vulnerable this entire time, and I'd been too focused on maintaining boundaries to notice. I take a long drink of wine, needing the warmth as his words sink in. So the driver, the security protocols. All of it. That's because you feel guilty. That's because you matter. He says it simply, directly, his dark eyes holding mine. You've mattered for longer than I was willing to admit, even to myself. The admission hangs between us, heavy with implications I'm not sure I'm ready to examine. I redirect, seeking safer territory. Tell me about Giovanni. How do you know him? Franco allows the subject change, though I see understanding in his expression. He was friends with my father. When I was younger, maybe 10 or 11, my father would bring me here after school. Giovanni would let me do homework at that table by the window while they talked business. What kind of business? A slight smile, the kind that required privacy and trust. Giovanni never asked questions, never repeated what he heard. That's rare, especially in this city. He knew what your father was, knows what I am. Franco corrects. And he's never judged it. His son was in trouble once, gambling debts to the wrong people. My father helped resolve it. Giovanni's been loyal to our family ever since. The food arrives in stages. First, an antipasto plate with cured meats, marinated vegetables, and fresh mozzarella that melts on my tongue. Then pasta. Giovanni's own recipe, Franco tells me. Something between carbonara and cacio e pepe, rich and creamy and perfect. We eat in companionable silence for a few minutes before Franco speaks again. Tell me about your family. The real story, not what I read in background checks. I set down my fork, surprised by the request. Why do you want to know? Because you send $800 home every month. Because you work late every night even though your contract specifies 40 hours per week. Because when I asked why you stayed at this job despite obviously knowing what we do, you said the money helps. He pauses. I want to understand what drives you. It should feel invasive, this interest in my personal life. But there's something in the way he asks, genuine curiosity without judgment, that makes me want to answer. My father is 58, I begin. He was a facilities manager for a pharmaceutical company in Connecticut. Good job, good benefits, 23 years of service. Then the company got acquired, new management came in, and they cleaned house of anyone over 50. Age discrimination, obviously, but impossible to prove. Franco nods, listening without interruption. He tried to find other work. But no one wants to hire a 56-year-old manager when they can get someone 30 years old for half the salary. The unemployment ran out. Savings got depleted. And he just broke. Depression, anxiety, days where he doesn't get out of bed. I take another sip of wine, steadying myself. My mother Linda works as a nurse. Double shifts most weeks trying to keep them afloat. And my sister Kayla, she's 19, trying to get through community college while working part-time at Target. So you became the safety net. I send what I can. It's not enough to fix everything. Nothing can give my father back his sense of purpose, or my mother her sleep, or my sister the college experience she deserves. But it keeps them housed and fed. It means Kayla can buy textbooks. It means my father can keep his blood pressure medication. I meet Franco's eyes. That's why I stayed. Why I didn't ask questions about shipping manifests that don't quite add up, or meetings that happen at 3 a.m. The salary you pay lets me take care of them. Franco is quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable in the candlelight. When he speaks, his voice is softer than I've ever heard it. My father died 5 years ago. Heart attack in his office on a Tuesday afternoon. He was 61. Franco turns his wine glass slowly between his fingers. He built everything from nothing. Came from Naples with barely enough money for a week's rent. Worked construction jobs until he could buy his first legitimate business. The rest came later. The expansion into less legitimate operations. Do you regret it? The path he took? No. The answer is immediate. He provided for our family. He created opportunities for people in our community who had none. The methods weren't always legal, but the results were real. Hundreds of families employed, protected, given chances they wouldn't have had otherwise. That's how you justify it. I don't need to justify it. There's no defensiveness in his tone, just statement of fact. I'm under no illusions about what I do, Emily. I make choices that exist in gray areas, that sometimes cross into darkness. but I also carry the weight of everyone who depends on me. Not just family, but every person working in our operations. Every family whose livelihood is connected to ours. I think about this, about the complexity of it. When you took over at 29, was it what you wanted? No. Another direct answer. I was working on a graduate degree in business, had plans for legitimate consulting work. Then my father died, and suddenly I had a choice. Let everything he built collapse, leave hundreds of people without income or protection, or step into his role. He meets my eyes. There wasn't really a choice at all. The weight in his voice is palpable. The burden of 5 years carrying an empire built on loyalty and violence and complicated morality. You said earlier that I've mattered for longer than you were willing to admit. I say carefully. What did you mean? Franco sets down his wine glass with deliberate care. I noticed you 3 months after you started. The way you organized files by both date and relevance, not just one or the other. How you always had coffee ready before I asked for it. The fact that you worked through lunch most days because you were trying to prove yourself indispensable. 3 months. He noticed me after 3 months, but maintained that careful distance for 15 more. Why wait so long? Because noticing you was dangerous, for both of us. His expression hardened slightly. The moment someone becomes important to me, they become a target. My father taught me that. Keep business and personal separate, never give enemies leverage. So I kept you at arm's length, treated you like furniture, convinced myself the distance was protection. Until Roberto. Until I saw someone else looking at you the way I'd been trying not to. Franco's hands curl into fists on the table. Until I realized that keeping you invisible to me didn't make you invisible to everyone else. You were vulnerable, and I'd left you that way out of cowardice. Protecting me isn't cowardice. Pretending I didn't care when I did is. The confession settles over me like a blanket. Heavy, warm, slightly suffocating. I should probably be concerned about this intensity. This possessiveness that drove him to demote Vincent and transfer Roberto. Should be worried about what it means that Franco Ravellini has decided I belong under his protection. But concern isn't what I'm feeling. What happens now? I ask quietly. Now you understand the parameters. You work in a dangerous environment. You have security not because I'm controlling, but because it's necessary. You have my protection because I refuse to leave you vulnerable. He leans forward slightly. And you need to decide if you can live with that. If you can accept that being in my world means giving up certain freedoms in exchange for safety. What if I say no? Then I respect your choice. But the security stays regardless. You know too much, have access to too much sensitive information. Even if you wanted to leave, you'd need protection while we transitioned you out safely. The honesty is refreshing and terrifying in equal measure. No pretty lies about choice and freedom. Just the stark reality that I've already crossed into his world whether I intended to or not. I'm not asking you to decide tonight, Franco continues. I'm giving you information so you can make an educated choice. Take time. Think about it. But understand that I'm not a man who does things halfway. If you stay, if you choose this, I will be involved in your life. Protectively, possessively, in ways you might not always appreciate. And if I stay, what exactly am I staying for? Just employment? His eyes darken with something that makes my breath catch. That's for you to decide as well. Giovanni returns with dessert, tiramisu that tastes like heaven, and the conversation shifts to safer topics. Franco tells stories about growing up in Brooklyn, about Giovanni teaching him to make proper espresso when he was 12, about his father's ridiculous superstitions about black cats and spilled salt. I find myself laughing at his delivery, at the unexpected glimpses of humanity beneath the controlled exterior. This is Franco without the armor, I realize. This is who he might have been if circumstances had been different. By the time we finish, it's nearly 10. Thomas materializes outside exactly when we emerge, as if he's been waiting all evening for the precise moment we'd need him. The drive to my apartment in Queens is quiet. Franco sits beside me in the back seat, closer than necessary but not touching, and I'm acutely aware of his presence. The car smells like his cologne, something with notes of cedar and spice, masculine without being overwhelming. When Thomas pulls up outside my building, Franco exits first, holding the door for me. Thank you for dinner, I say, suddenly awkward now that the evening is ending. For the honesty. You deserved honesty. You've deserved it from the beginning. He hesitates, then reaches out to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. The touch gentle, brief, but loaded with intention. Think about what I said, Emily. Really think about it. Because once you choose, once you're fully in my world, leaving becomes significantly more complicated. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Of protection. Of loyalty. Of the fact that I don't let go of what's mine. His hand drops away. And before you tell me you're not mine, understand that ship has already sailed. I claimed you the moment I exploded at Roberto. The only question remaining is whether you'll accept that claim. He steps back, allowing me space to breathe, to process the weight of what he's just said. I should be offended by the presumption, by the possessive certainty in his voice. Should probably tell him that I'm not property to be claimed, that his protection doesn't equal ownership. But as I watch him return to the car, as Thomas drives away and I'm left standing on the sidewalk outside my building, I realize the most terrifying part isn't Franco's claim. It's the fact that some part of me wants to accept it. Monday morning arrives with an envelope on my desk. Thick cream paper, my name written in elegant script across the front. I recognize the handwriting from the notes Franco leaves on documents. Precise, controlled, the letters perfectly formed. Inside is a single sheet of paper with an address in Boston and a salary figure that makes my breath catch. $95,000. Nearly $30,000 more than I currently make, which is already generous by any standard. The position is vague, executive liaison for Northeast operations, but the message is crystal clear. Franco is offering me an escape route, a way out of his world with a significant financial cushion to ease the transition. I fold the paper carefully, slide it back into the envelope, and carry it directly to his office door. I don't knock. I walk in, close the door behind me with enough force that it clicks loudly, and place the envelope in the center of his desk. Franco looks up from his laptop, one eyebrow raised at my entrance. No, I say simply. You haven't even considered it. There's nothing to consider. If you want me gone, be honest about it. Don't try to dress it up as a promotion or convince me it's for my own good. I cross my arms, anger giving me courage I didn't know I possessed. I'm not a child who needs to be manipulated into making the right choice. Franco closes his laptop with deliberate care, his attention now completely focused on me. It's not manipulation. It's providing options. It's you deciding what's best for me without asking what I want. And what do you want, Emily? The question stops me cold. What do I want? To keep working here. Keep sending money home to my family. Keep existing in this strange new dynamic where Franco Ravellini actually sees me. Or to take the safe option, the smart option, the one that removes me from proximity to violence and danger. I want transparency, I say finally. You told me Friday that I deserved honesty, that I should think about whether I can handle being in your world. Well, I've thought about it. I'm choosing to stay. But if you can't accept that choice, if you're going to keep trying to push me away for my own protection, then we have a problem. Franco stands, moving around his desk with that predatory grace that's become familiar. He stops close enough that I have to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact, close enough that I can smell his cologne. You have no idea what you're choosing, he says quietly. You think you understand this world, but you've only seen the surface. The security, the carefully managed distance from actual operations. You haven't seen the violence, the consequences of mistakes, the way enemies target anyone who matters. Then show me. Stop treating me like delicate porcelain and show me what this life actually means. I hold his gaze, refusing to back down. You said yourself that distance didn't protect me, so stop trying to maintain it. For a long moment, he just looks at me. Something unreadable in those dark eyes. Then he reaches out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear in that gesture that's becoming familiar. You're sure about this? I'm sure. Then the envelope gets shredded, and you stay. But understand something, Emily. If you stay on my terms. With my security protocols, my rules, my involvement in your life. His hand drops to my shoulder, thumb brushing my collarbone. No more arguments about drivers or guards or measures I deem necessary. Agreed? I should probably negotiate, establish some boundaries, maintain some independence. But the truth is, I'm tired of fighting. Tired of pretending I don't want exactly what he's offering. Protection, attention, the certainty of mattering to someone. Agreed, I say. But I have conditions too. Such as, you keep me informed. Not about everything. I understand there are operational details I'm better off not knowing. But about threats, about situations that might affect me directly. I can't make good decisions if I'm operating blind. Franco considers this, then nods slowly. Fair. What else? You don't lie to me. Not even omissions to spare my feelings. If something is happening that I should know about, you tell me. Even if the truth is ugly, especially then. Something that might be respect flickers across his expression. Anything else? Yes. You stop trying to manage my relationship with my family. They're mine to handle, and I won't have you interfering there. Franco's jaw tightens slightly at this one, but he nods. As long as they remain unconnected to any threats or operational concerns, your family is your business. Good. I step back, needing space to breathe now that we've established these parameters. Then we have an agreement. We do. Franco returns to his desk. But before sitting, he adds, for what it's worth, I'm glad you're staying. The admission catches me off guard, softening the residual anger from finding that envelope. You have a terrible way of showing it. I know. A ghost of a smile. It's not one of my strengths. The 3 weeks that follow settle into a new normal. Franco no longer maintains careful distance. Instead, he finds excuses to be present. He works from the outer office some afternoons, his laptop set up at the conference table where he can see me at my desk. He accompanies me to lunch, claiming he needs to eat anyway, and we might as well go together. He stays late when I stay late, the two of us working in companionable silence, until Thomas arrives to drive us both home. It should feel suffocating, this constant proximity, but somehow it doesn't. Instead, I find myself looking forward to our afternoon coffee breaks, to the way Franco explains the legitimate side of his operations when I ask questions, to the rare moments when his carefully maintained control slips, and I catch glimpses of the man beneath the armor. On a Wednesday afternoon, 3 weeks after I refused the Boston transfer, Franco emerges from his office with an unusual request. There's an event Friday evening, a fundraiser for the Brooklyn Children's Hospital. I'm expected to attend. He pauses, studying me. I'd like you to come with me. As your secretary? I ask, confused about why I'd be needed at a charity event. As my guest. The distinction hangs in the air between us. Guest, not employee. This isn't about taking notes or managing schedules. This is something else entirely. Why? Because these events are tedious, and your company would make them less so. Because I attend dozens of these functions a year, and would prefer for once to have someone there I actually want to talk to. He moves closer. And because people need to see you with me, need to understand that you're under my protection, making me visible to your world, making the protection official. Franco's expression is serious. Right now, only my inner circle knows you matter. This would expand that circle considerably. Anyone who might consider targeting you would know it means war with me. It's a power move, I realize. A public claiming that leaves no room for misinterpretation. But it's also an invitation into his life beyond these office walls, a signal that I'm not just an employee anymore. What's the dress code? I ask instead of analyzing the implications. Relief flickers across his face. Formal. I'll have something sent to your apartment. Franco, before you argue, understand that this isn't about control or managing your choices. It's about practicality. The dress needs to match the event's level, and I know you don't have formal wear appropriate for a $1,000 per plate fundraiser. He holds up a hand when I start to protest. Consider it a work expense. You're attending as part of your role supporting me. The logic is sound, even if it makes me uncomfortable to accept such an expensive gift. Fine, but nothing too revealing or flashy. I'll make sure it's appropriate. A hint of amusement enters his voice, though I have to ask, do you trust my taste? I trust that you won't make me look ridiculous. High praise, he says dryly, but I catch the smile before he turns back to his office. Friday arrives faster than I expect. The dress is delivered Thursday evening. A floor-length gown in deep emerald green that brings out my eyes, elegant without being provocative, with a modest neckline and a back that dips just low enough to be interesting. The fabric is some kind of silk that flows like water, and when I try it on in my apartment, I barely recognize my reflection. Thomas picks me up at 6:30, and instead of driving to Franco's office, we head to his brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, a neighborhood I've never visited but know costs millions just to own a modest property. The townhouse is exactly what I'd expect. Elegant, understated, expensive without being ostentatious. Marco meets me at the door, his usual intimidating expression softening slightly when he sees me. "Miss Richardson, Mr. Ravellini is expecting you in the study." I follow him through a hallway lined with family photographs, younger versions of Franco with an older man who must be his father, scenic shots of what looks like Naples, a few formal portraits. The study is all dark wood and leather, books lining floor-to-ceiling shelves, a massive desk positioned to face windows overlooking a small garden. Franco stands with his back to me, adjusting his cufflinks, dressed in a tuxedo that fits him perfectly. When he turns, I see the same surprise in his expression that I felt looking in my mirror earlier. "You look beautiful," he says simply. No artifice or exaggeration, just statement of fact. "The dress helps," I reply, suddenly self-conscious under his scrutiny. "The dress is just fabric. You make it beautiful." He crosses to where I stand, offering his arm. "Shall we?" The fundraiser is held at the Brooklyn Museum. The event space transformed into an elegant affair with string quartets and champagne, and people wearing enough jewelry to fund several hospital wings. Franco's hand remains at the small of my back as we navigate the crowd, a subtle but clear signal of connection. People notice. Of course they notice. Franco Ravellini doesn't attend these events with companions. I gather from the subtle stares and whispered conversations that follow our path. "Are you uncomfortable?" Franco asks quietly as we pause near a sculpture exhibit. "Nervous," I admit. "Everyone's looking at us." "At you," he corrects. "They're trying to figure out who you are, why you're with me." His hand presses slightly against my back, grounding. "Let them wonder." We're approached by a succession of people. Businessmen Franco knows from legitimate ventures, politicians whose campaigns he's funded, socialites who seem to exist solely at these kinds of events. Franco introduces me each time with the same simple phrase, "This is Emily Richardson." No explanation of my role, no qualifying details, just my name, delivered with enough certainty that no one dares ask for clarification. Around 8, we're approached by a man in his 50s, with silver hair and a smile that doesn't extend to his calculating eyes. "Franco, good to see you," he says, extending a hand. "And who's this lovely young woman?" "Emily Richardson," Franco replies, his tone cooler than it's been all evening. "Emily, this is Richard Castellano. He runs shipping operations out of Newark." Something in Franco's posture has changed. Subtle tension in his shoulders, a slight tightening of his hand against my back. This man is more than a business acquaintance, I realize. This is someone Franco considers a threat. "Pleasure to meet you, Miss Richardson," Richard says, his eyes traveling over me in a way that makes my skin crawl. I wasn't aware Franco had such charming associates. The pause before associates is deliberate, laden with implication. "Miss Richardson works with me," Franco says, his voice dropping to that dangerously quiet register I've learned to recognize, "and is under my complete protection." I trust that's understood. Richard's smile falters slightly. "Of course. No offense intended." "None taken," I say smoothly, surprising myself with my composure. Though I appreciate Mr. Ravellini's consideration for my security. One can never be too careful these days. The subtle reminder that I'm aware of the world we operate in seems to satisfy Richard, who makes his excuses and moves away quickly. "Well handled," Franco murmurs once we're alone again. Richard is with the Yakuza Yamaguchi operations. They've been testing boundaries in Brooklyn recently. Is that what all this is about? I gesture vaguely at the event. Showing strength through normalcy? Partially. These events serve multiple purposes. Legitimate charity work, networking, and yes, showing that I'm established enough in respectable society that challenging me has consequences beyond the obvious. He guides me toward the exit. But I think we've accomplished what we needed to. "Want to leave?" "God, yes." His laugh is genuine, transforming his face into something younger and less burdened. "Giovanni's?" Perfect. We end up at the little restaurant in the West Village, still in our formal wear, eating Giovanni's pasta and drinking wine while the old man tells increasingly exaggerated stories about Franco as a child. He was terrible at cooking, Giovanni says, gesturing dramatically. Burned water somehow. His poor mother. She tried to teach him, but no. Nothing. I was 10, Franco protests, but he's smiling. And the pot was defective. The pot was fine. Your attention was defective. I laugh, watching this side of Franco that exists outside the weight of leadership and violence. This version that allows himself to be teased, to reminisce, to simply exist without the armor. On the drive back to my apartment, Franco is quiet, but it's comfortable silence rather than tense. When Thomas pulls up outside my building, Franco gets out with me, walking me to the door as he's started doing recently. "Thank you for tonight," he says. "For coming with me. For handling Richard and everyone else with grace. Thank you for the dress. For including me in that part of your life. Emily." He reaches out, his hand cupping my cheek. "You're not just included in parts anymore. He pauses, searching for words. "You're integral. To the work. To the organization. To my life. I need you to understand that." The admission should probably concern me. This level of importance. This depth of connection forming so quickly. But standing here in the November night air, with his hand warm against my skin, and his eyes reflecting streetlight, concern is the furthest thing from my mind. "I understand," I say softly. He leans down slowly, giving me time to pull away, to establish boundaries. When I don't, his lips brush mine. Gentle, questioning, nothing presumptuous about it. I rise on my toes, closing the remaining distance, and kiss him properly. His free hand moves to my waist, pulling me closer, and for a moment the entire world narrows to this. His mouth on mine, his body warm and solid. The way kissing him feels like coming home to a place I didn't know I was missing. When we break apart, both breathing harder, Franco rests his forehead against mine. "I should let you go inside," he murmurs. "You should," I agree, making no move to step away. He smiles, actually smiles, and kisses me again briefly before forcing himself to step back. "Good night, Emily." "Good night." I watch him return to the car, watch Thomas drive away, then finally go inside, my lips still tingling, my heart racing with the certainty that everything just changed again. The month following that first kiss reshapes my understanding of what it means to be connected to someone. Franco doesn't just include me in his world, he pulls me into the center of it, makes me integral in ways I'm still learning to navigate. It starts with the meetings, not the dangerous ones, not the discussions about territorial disputes or enforcement actions, but the strategic planning sessions where Franco and his inner circle make decisions about legitimate business operations. I sit in the corner with my laptop, ostensibly taking notes, but really I'm learning the language of this organization. The careful negotiations, the unspoken hierarchies, the way loyalty is both currency and shield. Roberto returns from his temporary reassignment at the port. He appears in the office on a Tuesday morning, knocking tentatively on Franco's door in a way that suggests genuine uncertainty about his welcome. I watch through the glass as Franco gestures him inside, as they speak for nearly 20 minutes. When Roberto emerges, he stops at my desk. "I owe you an apology," he says, his earlier confidence tempered by what looks like genuine regret. "I was testing Franco that night, trying to force him to admit feelings I suspected he had. I didn't think about how it would affect you, being used as a pawn in that game. The honesty catches me off guard." "You were trying to help him?" "In my own stupid way, yeah. He'd been watching you for months, pretending he didn't care, making himself miserable with the distance. I thought if I pushed the right button, he'd finally do something about it." Roberto grimaces. "I was right, but the method was selfish. I'm sorry. Apology accepted," I say, meaning it. Though you should know Franco didn't need pushing. Whatever was going to happen between us would have happened eventually. Maybe. But eventually can take years with Franco. He glances back toward the office. He's different now. Lighter somehow. You're good for him. After Roberto leaves, Franco calls me into his office. He's standing by the window, hands in his pockets, looking out over Manhattan. Roberto mentioned something interesting. He says without preamble. He's been seeing someone for about 6 months, a nurse named Vanessa Cooper. He's serious about her. That's good, I reply, sensing there's more to this conversation. He wants to bring her to the monthly family dinner, the one where everyone in my inner circle gathers with their partners and families. Franco turns to face me, which means people will expect you there as well. As what? Your secretary who happens to attend social events? As mine. He says it simply. No room for misinterpretation. Emily, everyone who matters already knows what you are to me. This isn't about hiding or pretending anymore. It's about making it official within the organization. The weight of what he's offering, or maybe claiming, settles over me. This isn't just dating. This is public acknowledgement within the dangerous world he operates in. A declaration that carries protection, but also expectation. What if I'm not ready for that level of commitment? Franco crosses to where I stand, his expression serious but not demanding. Then you tell me, and we slow down. But Emily, understand something. In my world, there's no such thing as casual. Either you're in, with all the protection and complications that brings, or you're out. There's no middle ground, no dating casually while we figure things out. That's not fair. No, he agrees. It's not. But it's reality. My enemies don't recognize nuance or gradual relationship progression. They see someone important to me, and they calculate how to use that against me, which means you need to be either fully protected or not connected to me at all. I sink into the chair across from his desk, processing this ultimatum that isn't quite an ultimatum. You're asking me to choose. I'm asking you to be honest about what you want. Because if you want this, us, then we do it my way. With security, with public acknowledgement, with your integration into every aspect of my life. He kneels in front of me, taking my hands. But if that's too much, if you need freedom more than you need this connection, I'll respect that. I'll hate it, but I'll respect it. The sincerity in his voice undoes me. This is Franco without armor, offering me the choice he claims doesn't exist while simultaneously making clear what choosing him means. I want this, I say quietly. It scares me, but I want it. Relief washes over his features. Then you'll come to the dinner, meet everyone properly. Let them see that you're not just someone passing through. Okay. He kisses me then, soft and claiming at once, and I taste the complicated truth of what I've agreed to. The dinner is held at Franco's brownstone the following Saturday. I arrive early at his request, ostensibly to help prepare, but really so I can acclimate to the idea of being on display. The house has been transformed. The formal dining room I glimpsed on my previous visit now holds a table set for 16. Candles flickering in silver holders, wine already breathing in crystal decanters. A catering team moves through the kitchen with practiced efficiency. Apparently, Franco doesn't cook for these events. Nervous? He asks, coming up behind me as I stare at the elaborate place settings. Terrified, I admit. These are people who've known you for years. What if they don't think I belong here? Then they're wrong. Franco turns me to face him. Emily, my opinion is the only one that matters. But for what it's worth, everyone who's met you has been impressed. Roberto thinks you're clever. Marco says you have good instincts. Even Joseph, who never likes anyone, mentioned that you handled yourself well at the fundraiser. Joseph was at the fundraiser? Joseph is always somewhere nearby when I'm in public. You just didn't see him. Franco adjusts my necklace, a simple gold chain I've worn for years but which suddenly feels inadequate for this occasion. You look beautiful. And you belong here because I want you here. That's the only qualification required. The guests begin arriving at 7. I recognize some from the office. Joseph with his perpetual scowl, Michael who handles their real estate portfolio, Anthony who manages the legitimate import operations. But there are others I've never seen, including several women who must be the partners Roberto mentioned. Roberto arrives with Vanessa, a petite woman with kind eyes and an easy smile. She makes a point of introducing herself to me immediately. Emily, right? Roberto's told me about you. Well, told me the version where he doesn't admit to being an idiot. She elbows Roberto affectionately. I'm glad you're here. It's nice to have another newcomer to this insanity. Her warmth is genuine, and I find myself relaxing slightly as we talk about her work at Brooklyn Methodist, about Roberto's terrible cooking, about how strange it is to be connected to this world. Does it get easier? I ask quietly, while Roberto is distracted by another guest. Being with someone in this life? Yes and no, Vanessa says honestly. You learn to compartmentalize, to not ask about certain things, to trust that the man you love is more than the violence his work sometimes requires, but the fear never completely goes away. You just decide whether the love is worth the fear. The observation stays with me through dinner, through courses of incredible food and wine that flows freely, and conversations that range from mundane to carefully coded discussions about territory and operations. I sit next to Franco, his hand occasionally finding mine under the table, his presence a constant anchor. Around 10, after most guests have moved to the living room with after-dinner drinks, Joseph approaches me in the kitchen where I've escaped for a moment of quiet. Miss Richardson. I turn, surprised. Joseph rarely speaks to me beyond professional necessity. Joseph. Mr. Ravellini seems happy. Happier than I've seen him in the 5 years I've worked for him. Joseph's expression remains neutral, but there's something almost approving in his tone. That's good. He needs someone who can give him reasons beyond duty and obligation. I'm not sure I'm that person, I admit. You are. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought you into his home. Into this circle. Joseph pauses. Just understand. Being that person means accepting certain responsibilities. You're not just his partner. You're potentially his weakness. His enemies will see you that way. Franco's already explained this. I'm sure he has. But I'm telling you as someone who's seen what happens when loved ones become targets. The protection we provide is comprehensive, but it requires your cooperation. No slipping away from security, no taking unnecessary risks, no prioritizing independence over safety. The warning is clear, and I appreciate its directness. I understand. Good. Joseph nods once and returns to the living room, leaving me with my thoughts. When the last guests leave around midnight, Franco and I are finally alone. I help him clear glasses, comfortable in the domestic routine, when he catches my hand. Thank you for tonight, for being here, for handling everyone with grace, for not running when Joseph cornered you. How did you know about that? I always know. He pulls me close, arms wrapping around my waist. What did he say? That I'm potentially your weakness, that I need to cooperate with security protocols. Franco's expression darkens. I'll speak to him about overstepping. Don't. He was right. And I appreciate the honesty. I rest my head against his chest, hearing the steady beat of his heart. Franco, I need to tell my family about us. About you. He stiffens slightly. What would you tell them? The truth. That I'm seeing someone, that it's serious, that he's in a complicated line of work. I look up at him. I won't lie to them, but I'll be careful about details. They deserve to know there's someone important in my life. When? I call my mother every Tuesday. I was thinking this week. Franco considers this, then nods slowly. Okay. But Emily, if they ask questions about what I do or who I am, you deflect. The less they know specifically, the safer they are. I know. Tuesday evening finds me in my apartment, phone in hand, trying to figure out how to explain Franco Ravellini to my mother. In the end, I decide on partial truth, the safest kind. Mom, I wanted to tell you something. I'm seeing someone. Linda's voice brightens immediately. Oh, Emily, that's wonderful. Who is he? How did you meet? His name is Franco. He's my boss, actually. We've been working together for a while and things develop naturally. Your boss? Concern creeps into her tone. Honey, are you sure that's wise? Office relationships can get complicated. I know, Mom, but it's serious. He's been incredibly generous. He's actually the one who helped with Dad's situation. I'd told her weeks ago about the financial assistance, framing it as a company benefit rather than personal gift. Wait, the money for your father's training program, that was from him? He has resources, Mom, and he wanted to help. There's a long pause. Emily, What kind of work does this man do that he can offer that kind of money casually? Import business. He's very successful. Not technically a lie. The Ravellini operations do include legitimate importing. He's also Italian, from Brooklyn. Family business. Italian family business from Brooklyn. Linda repeats slowly. Emily, you need to be careful. That sounds like... I know what it sounds like, Mom, and I'm being careful. But he's good to me. He's protective. He's honest. He's given me no reason to doubt him. Another pause. This one heavier. You love him. I think I might, I admit, the words coming easier than expected. I know it's fast and I know it's complicated, but yes, I think I love him. Then I trust your judgment. But Emily, if anything ever feels wrong, if you ever feel unsafe or uncomfortable, you come home. You hear me? No relationship is worth your safety. I know, Mom, I promise. We talk for another 20 minutes about other things. Dad's progress in his retraining program, Kayla's upcoming finals, the approaching holidays. When we hang up, I feel lighter. As if acknowledging Franco's importance to my family makes it more real, more sustainable. Franco calls an hour later, as if sensing I need to hear his voice. How did it go? She knows. She's concerned but supportive. I curl up on my couch, phone pressed to my ear. She asked what kind of work you do. What did you tell her? Import business. Successful Italian family operation from Brooklyn. He laughs, the sound warm. All technically true. That was the idea. Emily. His voice softens. Thank you for telling them. For making this real beyond just us. It is real, Franco. Terrifying and complicated and probably inadvisable. But real. Come stay with me tonight. The request catches me off guard. We haven't spent the night together yet. Haven't crossed that particular boundary despite the increasing physical intimacy of our relationship. Franco, just to sleep. I want you here. Want to wake up with you tomorrow. He pauses. But only if you're ready. No pressure. I look around my small apartment, at the life I've built through careful independence and sacrifice. Then I think about Franco's brownstone, about the way his presence makes me feel grounded and safe and seen. Okay, I say. I'll pack a bag. Thomas will be there in 20 minutes. The decision feels significant. This choosing of his space over mine. This acceptance of deeper integration into his life. But as I pack essentials into an overnight bag, I recognize the truth. I've already chosen. Every decision since that rainy Thursday evening when Roberto asked if I was single has been leading here, to this moment of conscious commitment. When Thomas arrives, he greets me with his usual professional courtesy. But there's something that might be approval in his expression as he opens the car door. Franco is waiting when I arrive, the door opening before I can knock. He takes my bag, sets it aside, and pulls me into his arms. You came. You asked. I'll try not to make a habit of it. Asking for things. But his tone suggests he will absolutely make a habit of it, and somehow I don't mind. We go upstairs to his bedroom. A space I've never seen before. All dark wood and masculine simplicity. He gives me space to change in the bathroom. And when I emerge in my plain cotton pajamas, feeling underdressed in his elegant space, he's already in bed wearing only sleep pants. I slide in beside him, hyper-aware of his warmth, of the intimacy of this domestic act. Come here, he murmurs, pulling me against his chest. I settle into him, my head on his shoulder, his arm around my waist. This is nice. I admit after a moment. This is perfect. He corrects. This is what I wanted but didn't know how to ask for. We lie together in comfortable silence, and I feel the day's tension drain away. This is trust, I realize. Not just physical but emotional. The vulnerability of sleep, of lowered defenses, of simply existing together. Emily? When I said you're mine, I meant it. Not as possession, but as belonging. The way I belong to you, too. The confession, quiet in the darkness, settles into my chest like warmth spreading. I know, I whisper. I feel it, too. His arms tighten around me, and I drift toward sleep feeling safer than I've felt in years, anchored by the steady rhythm of Franco's heartbeat and the certainty that, complicated or not, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. The 2 months that follow our first night together blur into a rhythm I've never experienced before. Work during the day, evenings at Franco's brownstone more often than my own apartment. Weekends that blend legitimate business with carefully guarded moments of normalcy. I'm learning to navigate the complicated reality of being Franco Ravellini's partner, discovering that love in his world comes with protocols and protection and a constant awareness of the dangerous machinery operating just beneath the surface. I meet the legitimate side of his operations first. The real estate holdings, the import company that actually does import Italian goods, the restaurant group he owns throughout Brooklyn. Franco walks me through quarterly reports with patience I didn't know he possessed, explaining profit margins and expansion plans with the same careful detail he uses for everything else. "Why are you showing me this?" I ask one evening, surrounded by financial documents in his home office. "Because you're part of my life now. All of it." He gestures to the spreadsheets. "This is how we maintain the facade, yes, but it's also real. These businesses employ 300 people legitimately. Their families depend on these operations. I need you to understand that not everything I do exists in moral gray areas. The businesses are impressive, profitable, well-managed, providing genuine value. It's the other side, the side Franco keeps carefully separated, that I'm still learning to comprehend. The threat from the Yakuza Yamaguchi has been escalating. I know this not from direct involvement, but from the increased security around me. From the tense meetings Franco takes in his office with the door firmly closed. From the way Joseph's usual scowl deepens whenever I mention going anywhere outside my established routine. On a Tuesday evening in early December, Franco comes home later than usual. I'm in his kitchen making pasta, a skill I've been teaching myself using recipes from Giovanni, when I hear the front door. His footsteps are heavier than normal, weighted with exhaustion. When he enters the kitchen, his tie is loosened, jacket discarded somewhere between the door and here, and there's a tightness around his eyes that speaks of stress barely contained. "Rough day?" I ask, keeping my tone light. "The Yakuza made another move. Territory in Brooklyn they're claiming was never properly established as ours." Franco leans against the counter, watching me work. We're negotiating, but it's tense. This is new. Him volunteering information without me having to ask. Progress, I think, in the transparency we agreed to. What does that mean for security? It means for the next few days, maybe longer. You stay where I can verify you're protected. Work here. Nowhere else without advance notice. He moves closer, his hand coming to rest on my hip. I know you don't like restrictions, but this isn't negotiable right now. I turn to face him fully, seeing the genuine concern beneath his controlled exterior. Okay, but Franco, you have to tell me, is this the kind of threat where I should be worried about violence directed at me specifically, or is it about territorial posturing? Both. He's direct, which I appreciate even as it sends ice through my veins. The Yakuza knows you matter to me. Richard Castellano made sure of that after the fundraiser. They won't target you directly. That would trigger war they're not ready for. But they might use the threat of you to gain leverage. So I'm a bargaining chip. You're a complication they're calculating how to use. Franco's expression hardens. Which is why, for the next 72 hours minimum, you're under enhanced protection. Thomas and another guard with you at all times, tracking on your phone that I monitor personally. No deviations from planned routes. The restrictions should feel suffocating. A month ago, they might have. But I've learned enough about Franco's world to understand that these measures aren't about control. They're about keeping me alive. What do you need from me? Relief flashes across his face. Cooperation without argument. Trust that I'm not overreacting. I trust you. I do. I realize. Completely. Just keep me informed about what's happening. Don't shut me out because you think ignorance will protect me. Deal. The next 3 days pass under enhanced security. 2 guards now. Thomas and Michael, both former military, both intimidating enough that people give me wide berth wherever I go. Franco works from home when possible, and when he must go to meetings, he calls every hour to confirm I'm safe. It's during one of these calls on Thursday afternoon while I'm organizing files in the office that things shift. "The negotiations are moving forward," Franco says, his voice carrying the edge of controlled satisfaction. The Yakuza is willing to establish clear boundaries if we offer financial compensation for the disputed territory. It's more than I'd prefer to pay, but it resolves this without violence. That's good, isn't it? It's pragmatic, which is new for me. There's something in his tone. Surprise, maybe, at his own restraint. A year ago, I would have responded with force, shown strength through action rather than negotiation. What changed? You did. Simple. Direct. I have more to lose now. More reason to choose solutions that don't escalate into war. The admission settles into my chest, heavy with responsibility. I'm changing him, pulling him toward choices that prioritize long-term stability over immediate demonstrations of power. It should feel good, but it's complicated by knowing those choices might be seen as weakness by others in his organization. Franco, if choosing negotiation puts you at risk with your own people, they'll adapt, or they'll leave. His voice is firm. I'm still in charge, Emily. My decisions stand. But yes, I'm making different choices now because different things matter. That's growth, not weakness. I want to believe him, want to trust that his organization will accept this shift. But doubt lingers. That evening, Franco suggests something unexpected. I want to help your family more directly, he says over dinner at his place. Your father's retraining is good, but it's not enough. I want to offer him a position with one of my legitimate companies. Management role, good salary, full benefits. Something that gives him back his sense of purpose. The offer catches me completely off guard. Franco, that's too much. It's practical. I have positions that need filling. Your father has experience. And it would mean you'd worry less, which means I'd worry less about you being distracted. He reaches across the table, taking my hand. Let me do this. Not as charity, but as investment in your family's stability, which directly impacts your well-being. I think about my father, about the depression that's eaten away at him for 2 years, about how much a real job, a position that values his experience, might mean. What kind of position? Facilities management for the restaurant group. Oversight of maintenance, renovations, vendor relationships across all locations. It's legitimate work, completely separate from any other operations. He'd report to the general manager, have a team under him, starting salary of $85,000. $85,000. More than my father made at his previous job, with benefits and respect and purpose. He'd have to move to New York, or commute. Connecticut to Brooklyn is doable, or we help them relocate if they want. Franco squeezes my hand. Emily, I'm not trying to buy your family's approval or create dependence. I'm trying to solve a problem that causes you stress. Your father needs work that restores his dignity. I have that work available. It's a clean solution. And my mother, my sister, your mother could transfer her nursing license to New York if they relocate. Plenty of hospitals hiring. Your sister could finish her education here, better schools, more opportunities. But again, all optional. I'm offering help, not demanding changes. The scope of what he's proposing is overwhelming. Not just helping my father, but potentially transforming my entire family's situation. I need to talk to them. Can't make these decisions for them. Of course. Talk to them. See what they want. The offer stands regardless. He pauses. But Emily, understand, this isn't separate from us. I'm not just helping your family out of generosity. I'm doing it because they're important to you, which makes them important to me. This is what being mine means. Your concerns become my concerns. The possessiveness in his tone should probably bother me more than it does. But I'm learning that Franco's possessiveness is just the flip side of his protection. They're inseparable, two aspects of the same fierce loyalty. I call my mother that night, explaining Franco's offer with as much detail as I can provide without overwhelming her. Emily, this is incredibly generous, Linda says, her voice thick with emotion. But honey, are you sure this is just about helping your father? This man is offering your dad a job, possibly relocating our whole family. That's a lot of influence over our lives. I know, Mom. But I also know Franco wouldn't offer if he didn't mean it genuinely. He's not manipulative. If anything, he's almost too direct. I take a breath. And yes, Part of it is about reducing my stress so I can focus on my work and our relationship. But that doesn't make the opportunity less real or valuable. Let me talk to your father. It could change everything for us. But we need to think carefully about accepting this level of help from someone we've never met. You could meet him. Come visit for a weekend. See his businesses. Meet him in person. Decide if this feels right. There's a long pause. Okay. Let me coordinate with your father and Kayla. Maybe we come down next weekend? After we hang up, I find Franco in his office, reviewing security reports. My family wants to meet you. They're coming next weekend to see the businesses, meet you properly before making any decisions. Franco looks up, something that might be nerves flickering across his usually controlled expression. They should meet me, make informed decisions. He sets aside his papers. What should I expect? My mother will be protective, probably suspicious. My father will be desperately hopeful but trying not to show it. Kayla will be impressed by everything and probably embarrass me. I move to his side. Just be yourself. They'll see what I see. And what do you see? Someone complicated who's trying to do right by the people he cares about. Someone whose methods aren't always clean but whose intentions toward me are honest. I cup his face. Someone I'm falling in love with, despite every rational reason I shouldn't. The confession hangs between us. The first time either of us has named this feeling that's been growing since that rainy Thursday evening 2 months ago. Franco stands, pulling me close. I love you, Emily. Have for weeks now, maybe longer. I just didn't know how to say it without it sounding like another claim. Another possession. It can be both. I whisper against his chest. A claim and a gift. Possession and freedom. That's what we are. All the contradictions existing simultaneously. He kisses me then, deep and claiming, and I feel the truth of our relationship in that kiss. Complicated, intense, built on foundations that include both danger and devotion. When we break apart, Franco keeps me in his arms. Whatever your family decides, whatever happens with the negotiations, whatever complications arise, you're mine, and I'm yours. That's the only certainty that matters. I want to argue about certainty in an uncertain world, want to point out all the ways this could still fall apart, but standing in his arms, feeling the solid reality of his presence, I choose to believe in the one certainty he's offering. Sometimes love means accepting the complicated truth that protection and possession can exist alongside genuine care, that a man who operates in moral gray areas can still love with absolute clarity, that choosing someone dangerous doesn't make the choice wrong, it just makes it conscious. And I'm choosing Franco Ravellini, fully aware of exactly what that choice means. The abduction happens on a Wednesday afternoon in early December, 3 weeks after Franco's negotiations with the Yakuza Yamaguchi began showing real progress. I'm leaving the office building for a quick coffee run, approved by Thomas, within the established safe zone, with Michael trailing 20 feet behind as additional security. Everything follows protocol perfectly, until it doesn't. The man who approaches me looks like any other businessman on a Manhattan sidewalk. Nice suit, briefcase, perfectly normal expression. He asks for directions to a restaurant 2 blocks away. I start to answer, pointing east, when something sharp presses against my ribs. Don't scream, he says quietly in accented English. Walk with me to the car. If you alert your guard, I'll kill you both. My mind goes blank with terror, then floods with everything Franco taught me about not showing fear, about staying calm in dangerous situations, about calculating odds of survival. The car is a dark sedan parked at the curb, engine running. Another man in the driver's seat. This was planned, coordinated, executed with precision that suggests professional operation. Michael is still 20 feet back, checking his phone, unaware. If I scream, this man might actually shoot. If I don't, I'm getting into that car. I make the calculation in 3 seconds. Franco will find me. He always knows where I am, has tracking on my phone, has resources I can't even imagine. But if I'm dead on this sidewalk, none of that matters. I get in the car. The man slides in beside me, keeping the gun, small, easily concealed, pressed against my side. Phone. I hand it over without argument. He removes the battery, tosses both pieces out the window as we pull into traffic. The tracking is gone. Franco's lifeline to my location severed. Terror threatens to overwhelm me, but I force it down. Remember what Franco said about fear being useful, only if it keeps you alert. About panic making you vulnerable. Where are you taking me? Quiet. The drive lasts maybe 30 minutes, though tracking time becomes difficult when adrenaline makes every second stretch. We end up in Queens, in an industrial area filled with warehouses and storage facilities. The building they take me to is abandoned, or appears to be. Broken windows, rust on the metal doors, general air of neglect. Inside is different. Someone has prepared this space. A chair in the center of an empty room. Rope. A camera set up on a tripod. This isn't random violence. This is staged, designed to be filmed and sent somewhere. To Franco. Sit. The man who abducted me orders, gesturing to the chair. I sit, because fighting now accomplishes nothing. Save energy for when it might actually matter. They tie my wrists and ankles, not cruelly tight, but secure. The driver sets up the camera, adjusting angles while the first man makes a phone call in Japanese. I catch maybe one word in 10, but the tone is clear. Confirmation of successful acquisition, awaiting further instructions. Then we wait. Hours pass. The men largely ignore me, talking quietly in Japanese, checking phones, smoking cigarettes that make the enclosed space hazy. I keep my breathing steady, my expression neutral, my fear contained beneath forced calm. Franco will come. I have to believe that. He has connections, resources, people who owe him favors throughout this city. He'll find me. I just have to stay alive long enough. Around what I estimate is hour 10, maybe 11. Hard to tell with no windows, no phone, no way to track time beyond the growing ache in my bound limbs. Something changes. The men get a call, conversation rapid and urgent. Then they're moving, gathering their things, the camera, everything. Your boss is very resourceful. The first man says to me, almost admiringly, faster than we expected. This location is compromised. They leave. Just leave me tied to the chair in an abandoned warehouse with no phone, no way to call for help, no certainty that anyone is actually coming. The fear I've been containing breaks free. I pull against the ropes, accomplishing nothing except rope burn on my wrists. Try to tip the chair, thinking maybe I can slide across the floor, reach something, anything. Then I hear it. Footsteps. Multiple people moving through the building with purpose. Emily! Franco's voice, raw with something I've never heard from him before. Fear. Actual fear. In here! I call back, my voice cracking with relief. The door explodes inward. Not opened. Exploded. Someone kicked it with enough force to break the lock entirely. Franco comes through first, Joseph and Marco flanking him, all three armed with guns drawn. Franco's eyes find me in the chair, scan me for injuries, and what I see in his expression makes my breath catch. This isn't controlled Franco, careful Franco who always maintains composure. This is someone barely containing violence, someone whose control is fracturing at the edges. Are you hurt? He demands, already moving to me, holstering his gun to work on the ropes binding my wrists. No, scared, but not hurt. They just tied me here and waited. Waited for what? Joseph asks, already securing the perimeter. I don't know. They got a call maybe 30 minutes ago, said the location was compromised, and they left. Franco finishes with my wrists, moves to my ankles. His hands are shaking, actually shaking, and when he looks up at me again, I see the crack in his armor fully. I thought I'd lost you, he says quietly. 12 hours of not knowing where you were, if you were alive, if they were hurting you. I pull my hands free the moment he loosens the last rope and cup his face. I'm okay. I stayed calm. I didn't fight. I waited for you to find me like you said you would. He pulls me against him with enough force to make me gasp, his face buried in my neck. I feel him breathing me in. Feel the tremor running through his powerful frame. Feel the absolute terror he's been containing for 12 hours, finally releasing now that he has me back. We need to move, Joseph says gently. This area might not stay safe. Franco pulls back, composing himself with visible effort. But when he stands, helping me up, I notice what I couldn't see before. Blood on his knuckles, a spatter across his shirt collar. He came straight from somewhere violent, somewhere he got answers about my location through methods I probably don't want to know about. The drive back to his brownstone passes in tense silence. Franco keeps his arm around me, holding me against him like he's afraid I'll disappear if he loosens his grip. Thomas drives faster than normal, running yellows, taking corners sharp, getting us to safety with urgency that suggests the danger isn't completely over. At the brownstone, Franco leads me upstairs to his bedroom. Shower. Change into something comfortable. I'll bring food. Franco, please, Emily, let me take care of you right now. We'll talk after. The shower is good, washing away 12 hours of terror and warehouse dust and adrenaline sweat. When I emerge in borrowed clothes, his clothes, a t-shirt and sleep pants that hang on me, Franco is sitting on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. Hey, I say softly. He looks up, and the expression on his face breaks my heart. This is Franco stripped of every defense, every careful control, showing me the raw fear that's been eating at him. I failed you, he says simply. All the security, all the protocols, all my promises that you'd be safe, and they took you anyway. They took you, and I couldn't stop it. I moved to sit beside him, taking his hand. They took me because I followed the protocols. I didn't scream, didn't fight, didn't get myself killed on that sidewalk. I stayed alive because you taught me how to handle fear. You didn't fail me, Franco. You saved me. 12 hours. He repeats, his voice hollow. Do you know what I did in those 12 hours? Probably things I shouldn't know about. I found the Yakuza lieutenant who ordered your abduction. I made him tell me where you were. Franco's eyes meet mine, dark and haunted. I hurt him, Emily, badly, and I'd do it again without hesitation. Because he took you from me. The confession should horrify me, should make me recoil from this man who's admitting to torture, to violence, to becoming exactly the monster I always knew lurked beneath his control. Instead, I pull him against me, wrapping my arms around him. Thank you for finding me. You're not afraid? Of me? Of what I did? I'm terrified of a lot of things right now. But you're not one of them. I pull back to look at him. Franco, I knew what you were when I chose this. I knew violence was part of your world. Seeing it directed towards someone who hurt me doesn't change how I feel about you. It should, he says. But he's holding me tighter. It should change everything. Well, it doesn't. We stay like that for a long time, wrapped around each other, both processing the trauma of the day in our own ways. Eventually, Franco pulls back, his expression shifting back toward the controlled mask I know better. This changes our strategy completely. No more negotiations. The Yakuza violated every boundary by taking you. His voice has gone cold, distant. They declared war. I'm going to finish it. Franco, no. Don't make decisions based on fear or revenge right now. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking with perfect clarity. They took you to make a point, to show that negotiation is weakness. If I don't respond with overwhelming force, I look vulnerable to every organization watching this situation. I grab his face, forcing him to look at me. Or you respond by showing that you're strategic enough to end this without war, that you're strong enough to choose the harder path. I search his eyes. What did you tell me changed? What made you choose negotiation over violence in the first place? You did, he admits quietly. Then let me finish changing you. Let me help you find the solution that doesn't involve more blood. I press my forehead against his. Please, Franco. I'm safe now. Don't let what happened to me trigger something that gets you killed. The struggle plays across his face. The desire for revenge warring with his instinct to protect me by staying alive, by choosing wisdom over vengeance. What do you suggest? He finally asks. I think of my father touring Franco's kitchens with that mixture of awe and caution, of my mother finally sleeping through a full night instead of counting hours at the hospital, of Kayla's textbooks spread across our old kitchen table back in Connecticut. The thought of all that fragile stability turning into collateral damage in some bloody demonstration of power steadies my voice when I answer. Finish the negotiations, but add a clause. They pay for security breach, compensate for harm caused, publicly acknowledge this violated terms. Make them pay financially and politically for taking me. Show them you're powerful enough to demand restitution, not just deliver violence. Franco considers this, and I watch as the strategic mind I've come to respect takes over from the terrified lover who thought he'd lost me. That's actually brilliant, he admits. Forces them to acknowledge fault, costs them money and reputation, establishes clear consequence without triggering war. He kisses me softly. When did you become so strategic about criminal negotiations? I've been paying attention for 3 months. Learning from the best. He smiles, actually smiles, and some of the tension drains from the room. You're staying here. Not going back to your apartment. Not going to work until this is fully resolved. Agreed? Agreed. Though Franco, I need to call my family. They were supposed to visit this weekend, and I need to let them know I'm okay without explaining what actually happened. We'll call them together in the morning. Tonight, you rest. You've been through trauma, Emily. Let yourself process it. I don't know yet that the next few nights will bring warehouse shadows every time a car door slams outside, that I'll flinch at the sound of the elevator and have to breathe through the spike of panic until my body remembers I'm safe. For now, all I can do is focus on the solidity of his heartbeat under my cheek and trust that the shaking in my hands will eventually learn to quiet. But as we lie in his bed, me curled against his chest, his arms protective around me, I realize I am processing it, not through breakdown or panic, but through certainty. Certainty that choosing Franco means choosing this life, these dangers, these moments of terror balanced against moments of profound connection. I love you, I whisper into the darkness. Even after today, maybe especially after today, I love you. His arms tighten. I love you too, more than I thought possible to love anyone. And I swear to you, Emily, they will never touch you again. Whatever it takes, however I have to structure my operations, you will be safe. It's a promise he can't absolutely keep. We both know that. But lying in his arms, feeling the steady beat of his heart, I choose to believe him anyway. Because love in Franco's world means accepting that safety is relative, that protection comes with complexity, and that sometimes the most dangerous choice is also the most honest one. And I'm choosing him, consciously and completely, with full awareness of exactly what that means. The 2 weeks following my abduction pass in careful reconstruction. Franco implements his strategy exactly as we discussed. Negotiations continue with the Yakuza Yamaguchi, but now with additional terms that make them financially and politically accountable for the security breach. They pay $2 million in restitution, publicly acknowledge the violation of established boundaries, and agree to neutral mediators overseeing the territorial agreement. It's brilliant strategy wrapped in pragmatism, and I watch Franco execute it with the same precise control he brings to everything else. But I also see what it costs him. The restraint required to choose negotiation over revenge, the careful management of his own people who expected violence and got diplomacy instead. Some of them think you're going soft, Roberto mentions one afternoon, 3 weeks post-abduction, when I'm back in the office working half-days as Franco slowly allows me to resume normal routines. The younger guys especially. They see negotiation as weakness. What do you think? I ask, genuinely curious about his perspective. I think Franco is smart enough to know when violence serves his interests and when it doesn't. War with the Yakuza would have cost lives, money, and territorial stability for years. This way, we got compensation, established clear boundaries, and showed we're powerful enough to demand accountability without firing a single shot. Roberto leans against my desk. That's not weakness. That's evolution. The observation stays with me through the following weeks, as life gradually returns to something resembling normalcy. My family visits in mid-December, finally making the trip that got postponed after my abduction. I don't tell them what happened, just that there were security concerns that required delay. And Franco welcomes them with the same careful hospitality he shows everyone he's trying to impress. My father James is 58, but looks older. The weight of 2 years' unemployment visible in his posture, his hesitant handshake. My mother Linda has the exhausted competence of someone who's been carrying too much for too long. And my sister Kayla is 19 and wide-eyed at everything. The brownstone, Franco's obvious wealth, the way people defer to him with respect that borders on fear. Franco shows them the restaurant operations personally, walking them through 3 different locations across Brooklyn. He's impressive without being showy, explaining the business model, the management structure, the actual job he's offering my father with genuine respect for his experience. "Mr. Richardson," Franco says over lunch at one of his restaurants, "I've reviewed your resume and references. Your facilities management experience is exactly what we need to coordinate operations across multiple locations. The position is yours if you want it. Salary of $85,000, full benefits. Start date flexible based on your needs." My father's hands shake slightly as he processes this. That's very generous, Mr. Ravellini. But I have to ask, why? Why offer this to someone you've never met? Because Emily matters to me. Because ensuring her family's stability reduces stress that might affect her work and well-being. And because I genuinely need someone with your skill set. Franco's directness is refreshing. This isn't charity, Mr. Richardson. It's practical business that happens to benefit everyone involved. Later, when my parents are touring one of the restaurant kitchens with the manager, Kayla corners me in a quiet hallway. "Emily, your boyfriend is kind of terrifying," she whispers. "Like he's nice. But there's something underneath. Something dangerous." "I know," I say simply. "And you're okay with that?" I think about the question. About everything I've learned in 4 months with Franco. I'm choosing it consciously, with full awareness of what it means. That's different than being okay with it. It's accepting complexity. Kayla studies me for a long moment. "You love him. Very much. Then I'm happy for you, even if he is scary." My parents accept Franco's offer that evening. The relief on my father's face when he shakes Franco's hand is worth every complicated choice that led here. They'll relocate to New York in January, giving my father time to start the new position and my mother time to transfer her nursing license. After they leave, Franco pulls me into his arms in the quiet of his brownstone. "That went well? You were perfect with them." "Thank you for that. I meant what I said. It benefits me to have your family stable and close. You'll worry less, focus better, and I get the satisfaction of fixing a problem that's been hurting you." He kisses my forehead. Pragmatism wrapped in care. December slides into early January with the kind of peaceful routine I never expected to find in Franco's world. The Yakuza agreement holds. Territorial boundaries respected, no further incidents. A fragile peace maintained through clear consequences and mutual pragmatism. My family settles into New York, my father starting his new position with enthusiasm that restores some of his lost vitality. My mother finds work at Brooklyn Methodist, coincidentally the same hospital where Roberto's girlfriend Vanessa works. Roberto and Vanessa get engaged on New Year's Eve at the monthly family dinner, surprising no one who's watched them together for the past 6 months. The celebration is warm, genuine, full of people who've become unexpectedly important to me. Joseph with his rare smile, Marco and his wife, Anthony and his teenage kids, all the complicated families that form Franco's inner circle. "We're thinking spring wedding," Vanessa tells me while we're in the kitchen preparing desserts. "Small ceremony, just family. You and Franco will be there, of course." "Of course," I agree, struck by how naturally she includes us together. Not me and Franco separately, but us as a unit. That night, lying in Franco's bed with his arms around me, I process how much has changed in 5 months since that rainy Thursday when Roberto asked if I was single. "What are you thinking about?" Franco asks, fingers tracing patterns on my shoulder. How different everything is now. How I'm different. Regrets? No. I turn to face him. Concerns, yes. Questions about what comes next, always. But no regrets about choosing you. Franco's expression softens in the darkness. I was going to wait. Plan something elaborate, something that matches the importance of the question. But Emily, he sits up, reaching into the nightstand drawer. When he turns back, he's holding a small velvet box. My breath catches. 5 months ago, you were invisible furniture in my office. Now you're the reason I wake up, the person I trust most in this world, the only future I want to build. He opens the box, revealing a ring. Diamond, elegant, understated in a way that's perfectly us. Marry me. Not because it's expected or convenient, but because I love you and want you permanently in my life in every way that matters. I should probably ask for time to think. Should consider all the complications, the dangers, the reality of being married to someone in Franco's position. Should be practical and cautious and smart. Instead, I say, yes. He slides the ring onto my finger, perfect fit, like he measured somehow without me noticing, and kisses me with an intensity that conveys everything words can't capture. You're sure? He asks when we break apart. This isn't just accepting my world, Emily. It's becoming permanent part of it. There's no easy exit from being my wife. I know exactly what I'm agreeing to. I'm choosing it anyway. I cup his face. I'm choosing you, Franco Ravellini. Complicated, dangerous, surprisingly romantic you. He laughs, pulling me against him. We'll do this right. Engagement party, proper wedding, all the traditional elements you deserve. Can Giovanni cater? Obviously. He'll be offended if we ask anyone else. 3 months later, on a Saturday in April, we're married in a small ceremony at a historic church in Brooklyn Heights. My family sits on one side. My father healthy and employed. My mother rested. Kayla finishing her first year at NYU with expenses Franco quietly covered without making it an issue. Franco's people fill the other side. Roberto is best man. Vanessa with her own wedding planned for June. Joseph actually smiling. Marco and his family. All the complicated network of loyalty and violence and chosen family that defines Franco's world. Giovanni caters the reception, held in the garden behind Franco's brownstone. The food is incredible. The wine flows freely. And for one perfect evening, we exist in a bubble where the dangers of our reality feel distant and manageable. You look happy, my mother observes during a quiet moment. Both of us watching Franco navigate conversations with guests. I am, I say honestly. I worried when you first told me about him. About what kind of man offers the things he offered. What it might cost you. She squeezes my hand. But Emily, watching you two together, watching how he looks at you like you're the most important thing in his world, I understand now. You chose someone complicated, but you chose someone who genuinely loves you. He does. I agree. In his complicated, possessive, occasionally terrifying way, he loves me completely. That night, after the guests leave and we're finally alone, Franco carries me across the threshold of our home, his brownstone officially becoming ours, and sets me down gently in our bedroom. Mrs. Ravellini, he says, testing out the name. How does it feel? Right, I answer. Complicated and dangerous and probably inadvisable, but absolutely right. He kisses me then, and in that kiss is everything we are. The complexity, the chemistry, the conscious choice to build a life together despite every rational reason we shouldn't. Later, wrapped in his arms with Manhattan's lights visible through the windows, I think about the journey that brought us here, from invisible secretary to protected girlfriend, to wife of a man who operates in moral gray areas, but loves with absolute clarity. It's not the life I planned, not the future I imagined when I moved to New York with culinary dreams and student debt. It's better. What are you thinking now? Franco asks, his voice drowsy with contentment. That I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. That everything that happened, the fear, the danger, the complexity, led here. To you, to us, to this life we're building together. No regrets about marrying a criminal? No regrets about marrying the man I love, who happens to operate in complicated spaces. I turn to face him. Franco, you're not defined solely by the illegal aspects of your work. You're also the man who employs hundreds legitimately, who negotiated peace instead of choosing war, who helped my family when he didn't have to. You're complicated, not simple, and I love all of it. His arms tighten around me. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you have me anyway. We fall asleep like that, wrapped around each other, and I drift off knowing that tomorrow will bring its own complications. The Yakuza piece will need maintenance. Franco's operations will continue with their moral ambiguity. And being Mrs. Ravellini will mean navigating dangers I'm still learning to understand. But tonight, in this moment, we're just Emily and Franco, two people who found each other against all odds and chose to build something real from the complicated truth of who we are together. And that choice, conscious and complete, is the only certainty that matters.